Your mother kept Yoplait in the refrigerator. Your doctor told you to eat more yogurt. For decades, these brands built their empires on that trust. One container of Yoplait Original has 26 grams of added sugar, more than a Snickers bar. The American Heart Association says 25 grams a day. One Yoplait blows past that before your second cup of coffee. But Yoplait is not the worst one I found. One brand puts a petroleum-derived chemical inside a product built for your grandchildren. I investigated 8 of America's most trusted yogurt brands. Only 4 are actually clean, and the one that surprised me most is probably the one you switched to. So which brand should you be worried about first? Probably the one you almost certainly have in your fridge right now. Coming in at number 1 is Yoplait Original, the yogurt that defined the category for an entire generation of Americans. The pink lid, the cheerful fruit illustrations, the long-running promise of calcium and vitamins. General Mills has spent decades training you to associate Yoplait with wholesome eating. And it worked. More American breakfast tables start the day with a container of Yoplait than almost any other brand in the country. Pull off that foil seal and the first thing that hits you is the smell. It does not smell like dairy, it smells like dessert. That is those 26 grams of added sugar doing the heavy lifting inside a container most people treat as a health food. The American Heart Association caps daily added sugar at 25 grams for women, 36 for men. One container at breakfast exceeds the women's ceiling and takes 3/4 of the men's before your second cup of coffee. But the sugar is not even the part that should concern you most. Yoplait Original uses modified cornstarch to create that unnaturally smooth glossy texture that real yogurt does not have. Modified cornstarch is a filler. It dilutes the protein, inflates the carbohydrates, and lets General Mills use less actual dairy per container while keeping the retail price the same. The live cultures on the label? They are there because the law says they have to be, not because there are enough of them to actually do anything for your digestion. General Mills posted over $18 billion in revenue last year. They have every resource on earth to reformulate this product from the ground up. They ran the numbers and decided the sugar stays because the sales stay. That is what $18 billion worth of your trust bought you. If you assumed that paying a little more for a heritage brand, one that has been in American kitchens since the 1940s, would protect you from this kind of thing, what comes next is going to change your mind. Number 2 is Dannon fruit on the bottom. Dannon has been in American refrigerators for over 80 years. That kind of multi-generational presence creates a trust that goes deeper than any rational comparison. Your parents bought it. Maybe their parents bought it. It stopped being a choice a long time ago. Crack open a container and the presentation is appealing. Thick white yogurt on top, jewel-bright fruit compote pooled at the bottom, looking almost handcrafted. But that fruit compote is built primarily from high-fructose corn syrup and fruit concentrate, not real fruit. The Environmental Working Group found that multiple Dannon fruit varieties contain between 15 and 20 grams of added sugar per serving. What you stir in every morning is a corn syrup gel tinted with fruit flavoring and a token amount of real concentrate for color, and Dannon's track record makes this harder to overlook. In 2010, the company settled a class action lawsuit for $45 million over misleading health claims on their Activia line, specifically that it provided clinically proven digestive benefits the science did not support at the claimed level. $45 million. They paid without admitting wrongdoing, adjusted some label language, and kept selling the same core product. For anyone managing blood sugar or for families feeding Dannon fruit varieties to children as a daily snack, that sugar load is not a footnote. It is a metabolic event repeated every morning across millions of American households. 80 years and the trust of multiple generations. They chose corn syrup. And we still have not gotten to the brand that puts a petroleum-derived colorant inside a product your grandchildren eat every week. So you would think that spending nearly double for a premium brand, one that launched specifically to fix everything wrong with brands like Yoplait and Dannon, would get you something meaningfully different. That is exactly what Chobani is counting on. Number 3 is Chobani, the brand that single-handedly made Greek yogurt mainstream in America. Chobani launched as a real market disruptor. Higher protein, fewer ingredients, no artificial flavors. When it arrived, it felt like a legitimate alternative to the sugar-packed conventional brands that had dominated dairy aisles for decades. And the plain, non-fat, and low-fat Chobani varieties are solid products. The Chobani flip line tells a completely different story. A Chobani flip container, the kind with chocolate pieces, nut clusters, or candy-coated add-ins in the side compartment, can contain up to 20 grams of sugar per serving, plus soybean oil, cane sugar, and confectionery coating made from fractionated palm oil. This is yogurt that physically ships with candy built into the packaging. The protein count that built the Chobani reputation is functionally undercut by the glycemic load sitting in that mix-in compartment. And the containers are deliberately designed to read as nutritious. Earthy colors, clean fonts, no cartoon imagery. They are aimed at adults who consider themselves careful label readers, which makes the gap between the branding signal and the actual nutritional content more calculated, not less. Someone reaching for a Chobani flip at the checkout counter believes they are making a thoughtful health decision. They are picking up a split container where one half is protein and the other half is a confectionery product with a probiotic wrapper around it. You paid for a brand identity earned by the plain varieties. What you got was a candy compartment with better packaging. Budget brand, heritage brand, premium brand. 3 different price tiers running a version of the same move. But none of those brands aim their product directly at your grandchildren. This next one does, and what they put inside it is the part of this investigation that stopped me cold. Number 4 is Go-Gurt by Yoplait, the squeezable tube that has been a staple of American school lunchboxes for over 20 years. The entire product is engineered around children. Bold colors, cartoon characters, flavor names like Strawberry Splash and Berry Blue Blast, and Watermelon Meltdown. Parents and grandparents buy Go-Gurt because it is portable, it requires no spoon, kids love it, and it comes from the dairy aisle, which feels like nutritional common sense. A single tube contains about 8 grams of sugar in 60 calories. That sounds manageable until you realize that most children eat 2 at a sitting, and that the fruit flavors are built from artificial flavoring combined with 2 synthetic dyes called Red 40 and Blue 1. Red 40 and Blue 1 are petroleum-derived synthetic colorants. That is not a health blog talking point. It is a material fact about how these chemicals are manufactured, and the European Union takes it seriously enough to mandate a printed consumer warning on any food product containing these dyes. The warning reads, "May have an adverse effect on activity and attention in children." The United States requires no equivalent warning. General Mills, which produces Go-Gurt, is fully aware of the European regulatory science. They sell reformulated versions in European markets without these dyes. They use them in the American version anyway, inside a product engineered specifically for children and wrapped in cartoon packaging designed to make it look like a toy. For grandparents who keep Go-Gurt in the freezer as a special treat when the grandkids come over on weekends, or for families packing 2 tubes in a school lunchbox every single morning, believing they are providing a healthy calcium snack. That is a petroleum-derived synthetic colorant entering a child's developing body multiple times a week, every week, for years. The European Union warns parents about it on the package. General Mills decided American parents do not need to know. The brand we need to talk about next took the deception in a different direction entirely, because they did not just hide behind a label. They invented a scientific-sounding name for a common bacterium and built 15 years of television advertising around it. Number 5 is Activia by Dannon. And yes, Dannon appears twice because this product line earned its own section. The deception here operates on a completely different level. Activia is not just a yogurt brand, it is a medical-adjacent marketing campaign built around the authority of a claim that sounds scientific but was constructed in a boardroom. For years, Dannon ran television commercials featuring a physician figure explaining that Activia's exclusive probiotic strain, Bifidus regularis, could improve digestive transit in as little as 2 weeks with daily consumption. Bifidus regularis sounds like a clinical term. Dannon invented it. The actual bacterial strain behind the trademark is Bifidobacterium animalis, DN173010, a real and legitimate strain, but one found in many competing yogurt products with no scientifically established exclusive benefit over other well-studied probiotic cultures. They gave a common bacterium a pharmaceutical-sounding name and used it to sell sugar to people who were sincerely trying to care for their health. The Federal Trade Commission investigated those advertising claims. Dannon paid a $21 million settlement. The FTC formally described the claims as deceptive. Underneath the quasi-pharmaceutical branding, a container of Activia carries up to 19 grams of added sugar per serving. For anyone who has been eating Activia every day because a television doctor told them it would regulate their digestion, the foundational promise of this brand was a marketing construction. They settled the lawsuit, adjusted the advertising language, and kept selling the same product. The sugar stayed. And later in this video, I am going to show you the brand that actually delivers on the probiotic promise Activia only pretended to offer. If Activia, Yoplait, or Go-Gurt has been a regular purchase in your household, drop a comment right now. I want to know how many of us were buying these on autopilot without ever questioning what was actually inside. And if this investigation is helping you make better decisions at the grocery store, hit subscribe. It is free. And it means you will see every investigation like this before your next trip to the store. This is where the betrayal lands hardest for a lot of people, because number 6 is Stonyfield Organic. And Stonyfield is specifically the yogurt you reach for when you have already decided to do everything right. It is in the natural foods aisle. It is certified organic. The packaging features rolling green hills, a red barn, and the word farm in large, friendly text. Every visual element is designed to signal purity, land stewardship, and responsible food production. A 6-ounce container of Stonyfield organic low-fat fruit yogurt contains up to 24 grams of total sugar per serving. The fact that this sugar comes from organic cane sugar rather than high fructose corn syrup changes nothing about how your body processes it. Organic cane sugar triggers the same insulin response and produces the same blood glucose spike. The USDA organic seal on the front panel covers how the dairy cows are raised and what they are fed. It covers nothing about the sugar content of the finished product. And here is the part that most Stonyfield buyers have never heard. In 2017, Stonyfield was acquired by Lactalis Group, a $21 billion French dairy multinational that also owns President, Galbani, and dozens of other mass-market dairy brands across North America and Europe. The rolling green hills and the family farm origin story on that packaging are now the marketing assets of one of the largest dairy conglomerates on the planet. The label says organic while the container holds candy bar levels of sugar and the corporate ownership stays buried in the brand history. But Stonyfield appears again later in this video on the clean list. And understanding why is the single most important lesson this entire investigation delivers. We will get there. The next brand is the one a lot of health-conscious people switch to, specifically to escape everything I just described. And for a while, it actually deserved the recommendation. Number 7 is Siggi's. The founder, Siggi Halldorson, launched this company explicitly because he was repulsed by how much sugar American yogurts contained. That origin story resonated, and Siggi's became the brand recommended by nutritionists, registered dietitians, and food journalists who were done with the mainstream options. The plain low-sugar lines deliver on that founding promise. But Siggi's now has a product line consistency problem, and the brand's earned credibility is covering for a shelf that has drifted from its founding identity. The triple cream varieties and certain seasonal fruit blends push sugar content back towards 17 to 19 grams per serving. Still less extreme than Yoplait, but a meaningful gap between what the brand represents and what specific products deliver. Total fat in the triple cream line runs up to 9 grams per container, and the caloric density combined with the elevated sugar count in those specific products lands in nutritional territory that has very little to do with what made this brand worth recommending in the first place. Every Siggi's container displays a low sugar number prominently on the front panel. That number is accurate for certain products in the line. But someone scanning the shelf and trusting the Siggi's name because a physician mentioned it, or because they remember a clean review from a few years ago, may pick up a triple cream seasonal blend and consume a nutritional profile that shares almost nothing with the plain non-fat yogurt that built the brand's reputation. The story on the front was written for one product. The container in your hand may be telling an entirely different one. The final brand on this list carries a specific warning for anyone who uses yogurt as part of a daily weight management or heart health routine. What they used to replace the sugar is now under active scrutiny from two of the most credible health organizations on Earth. Number 8 is Light and Fit by Dannon, and Dannon appearing for a third time in this investigation is not a coincidence. It is a corporate pattern. Light and Fit is aimed directly at people who are watching their calories, actively managing their weight, and trying to make the disciplined, health-conscious choice. The packaging shows active, toned adults, low in fat, low in calories, every signal pointing towards smart daily health management. The mechanism behind that low calorie count is the near-total replacement of sugar with sucralose and acesulfame potassium, two synthetic sweeteners that create intense sweetness without adding calories to the nutrition label. Open a container and the smell is sweet and faintly chemical in a way that real cultured dairy never is. The texture runs thin, slightly watery compared to whole milk yogurt. Here is why that matters. In 2023, the British Medical Journal published a review that tracked over 100,000 adults for nearly a decade. The people who consumed the most artificial sweeteners showed higher rates of stroke and heart disease. That same year, the World Health Organization issued guidance explicitly recommending against non-sugar sweeteners as a long-term weight management tool, noting no clear demonstrated benefit and potential adverse effects with sustained daily use. That is not a health influencer claim. That is the BMJ and the WHO. For anyone eating Light and Fit every morning specifically to manage their weight and protect their heart, you are making a daily long-term wager on synthetic chemistry that two of the world's most credible health authorities are now formally questioning. Dannon's packaging shows a healthy woman and the word light. It does not mention any of that. Now here is what actually earns a place in your refrigerator. 4 brands that passed every test I ran. And I want you to pay attention to the prices because the math is not what you expect. The first clean pick is Maple Hill Creamery Organic Whole Milk Plain Yogurt. And it starts with a number that is going to make some of you hesitate. $7 to $9 for a quart, depending on your market. Before you move on, do the math with me. Open a container and the first thing you see is a cream layer sitting on top. A pale golden film that forms naturally when whole milk cultures correctly without shortcuts. The smell is clean, tangy, with a gentle sweetness that comes entirely from the milk itself. No synthetic fruit aroma, no chemical sweetness. Real cultured dairy exactly as it should smell. The ingredient list is 2 items long: organic whole milk and live active cultures. Everything else you have been reading about on every other label in this video is simply absent. Maple Hill sources exclusively from 100% grass-fed certified organic farms in New York State, verified by the American Grass-Fed Association, one of the more rigorous third-party certifications in American dairy agriculture. Grass-fed dairy carries more omega-3s and a compound called CLA that researchers have been studying for immune function and metabolism. The science is real and ongoing. Now, back to that price. A container of Stonyfield flavored costs you nearly the same per serving and loads you with 24 grams of added sugar. A Chobani flip runs close to $2 for a single container with a candy compartment bolted to the side. Maple Hill gives you a 2-ingredient panel and 0 added anything. The price is not inflated. The other brands are cheaper because they are cutting the product with starch, sugar, and filler. You were already paying. You were just getting less. But Maple Hill is not in every grocery store in America, and for a lot of families, availability matters as much as ingredients. If the probiotic promise is what drew you to yogurt in the first place, if that is the reason Activia has been sitting in your cart for years, this next brand delivers what Activia only pretended to offer. The second clean pick is Nancy's Organic Plain Whole Milk Yogurt, produced in Eugene, Oregon, where it has been made continuously since 1970. Nancy's is among the oldest operating yogurt producers in the country, and that longevity reflects stubborn consistency rather than a marketing pivot toward whatever the health trend of the moment happens to be. Here is what separates Nancy's from every other brand in this investigation. While most commercial yogurt brands meet the legal floor of 2 bacterial strains, Nancy's cultures with 6 live active strains, including Lactobacillus acidophilus and Bifidobacterium bifidum. Those are 2 of the most extensively studied probiotic strains in clinical microbiology for digestive support and immune function. Open a container and the texture is dense, holding its shape when you tilt the spoon. The smell is sharp, clean, and tangy in the way properly cultured whole milk dairy should smell. Nothing softened by sweetener. Nothing masked by fruit flavoring. 2 ingredients: organic whole milk and 6 live active cultures. Nancy's holds USDA, organic and non-GMO project-verified certifications. And here is the part that stopped me during this research. Nancy's publishes third-party culture verification results on their website. Not one of the other 7 brands in this investigation does that. They are the only ones who invite you to check their work. Price lands between $5 and $7 depending on your location, competitive with Stonyfield Organic and less expensive per serving than Siggi's Triple Cream. For anyone who spent money on Activia because of the probiotic promise and never felt a difference, Nancy's delivers a verified multi-strain live culture product in a 2-ingredient container, without the invented bacterium name, without the sugar load, and without the FTC enforcement history. Nancy's solves the probiotic problem, but the third clean pick is the one that changes how you shop for everything else in the dairy aisle, because it is a brand you already know, and it already betrayed you once in this video. The third clean pick is Stonyfield Organic Plain Whole Milk Yogurt, and the fact that the same brand appears on both lists is the single most important lesson this entire investigation delivers. The flavored Stonyfield varieties carry the sugar problem I covered earlier. The plain whole milk line is a fundamentally different product, and one of the cleanest options available in mainstream grocery chains nationwide. 2 ingredients: organic whole milk and live active cultures. The only sugars are naturally occurring lactose from the milk itself, running around 10 grams per serving. Your body processes lactose very differently from added cane sugar without the same acute insulin spike. The texture is smooth and moderately thick with a mild clean tang, and it takes fresh fruit, a drizzle of real honey, or granola without going watery. The lesson is that brand loyalty is the wrong tool for protecting your health. Product selection within a brand is where your health is actually being determined, and it requires turning the container around and reading the ingredient list rather than trusting the name on the front. The flavored Stonyfield and the plain Stonyfield sit on the same shelf, carry the same logo, and cost about the same. One loads you with 24 grams of added sugar. The other has 0. Same brand, same shelf, completely different product. If you have been buying Stonyfield flavored yogurts because you trusted the organic branding, switching to plain and adding your own fruit removes every gram of added sugar from the equation in a single decision. That one swap, that one habit change, is worth more than this entire video. Stonyfield Plain proves the lesson, but if Greek yogurt is what you want, if you went to Chobani specifically for the protein count and the thick texture, you need a brand that delivers those things without the candy compartment or the soybean oil. That is where this last pick earns its spot. The fourth clean pick is Wallaby Organic Whole Milk Plain Greek Yogurt. Wallaby earns its place here because it solves the core Greek yogurt problem without any of the compromises that define the Chobani flavored line. Most Greek yogurt brands achieve that thick, protein-dense texture through shortcuts. They add thickeners, gelatin, milk protein concentrate, or other additives to bulk up the numbers on a cheaper production run. Wallaby uses none of them. The plain whole milk Greek variety is thick enough to hold its shape against a tilted spoon, and that texture comes entirely from proper straining, the traditional method that concentrates protein by removing whey rather than dumping in powder. The smell is creamy and clean with a subtle tang, more restrained than Nancy's. Protein comes in at around 15 grams per serving from real whole milk alone. Wallaby conducts third-party laboratory testing for pesticide residue in their milk supply and makes the results available to the public. Sourcing is from certified organic farms with documented and verifiable supply chains. Cost runs $6 to $8 for a 32-ounce container, which works out to a lower cost per serving than Chobani Flip or Siggi's Triple Cream. If you have been reaching for Greek yogurt because of the protein content and the probiotic cultures, Wallaby delivers on every part of that promise. Real straining, real milk, verified sourcing, and a price that actually comes in lower per serving than the brands that cut their product with additives. The label matches the container. That should not be remarkable, but after everything I covered today, it is. I investigated 8 brands. 4 of them used your trust as a revenue strategy, and 4 actually deliver what the label promises. You now know the specific ingredients to look for, the specific claims to question, and the specific products that pass. Next week, I am pulling the labels on America's most popular bread brands. What I found in most of them does not look anything like bread. Subscribe now so you see it before your next trip to the store.